Welcome to day 14. We are reading Preparing for Passover, a 14-day devotional for the days from Biblical New Year to Passover by Tina Chen. Day 14 is the death of the firstborn. Read Exodus 11 verse 1 through 12 verse 30. I'm reading from the Web US translation of the Bible. Yah said to Moses, I will bring yet one more plague on Pharaoh and on Egypt. Afterwards he will let you go. When he lets you go, he will surely thrust you out altogether. Speak now in the ears of the people, and let every man ask of his neighbor and every woman of her neighbor jewels of silver and jewels of gold. Yah gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. Moreover, the man Moses was very great in the land of Egypt, in the sight of Pharaoh's servants and in the sight of the people. Moses said, This is what Yah says. About midnight I will go out into the middle of Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sits on his throne, even to the firstborn of the female servant who is behind the mill, and all the firstborn of livestock. There will be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt, such as there has not been, nor will be any more. But against any of the children of Israel a dog won't even bark or move its tongue, against man or animal, that you may know that Yah makes a distinction between the Egyptians and Israel. All these servants of yours will come down to me and bow down themselves to me, saying, Get out, with all the people who follow you, and after that I will go out. He went out from Pharaoh in hot anger. Yah said to Moses, Pharaoh won't listen to you, that my wonders may be multiplied in the land of Egypt. Moses and Aaron did all these wonders before Pharaoh, but Yah hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he didn't let the children of Israel go out of his land. Yah spoke to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be to you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, On the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to their fathers' houses, a lamb for a household. And if the household is too little for a lamb, then he and his neighbor next to his house shall take one, according to the number of the souls. You shall make your count for the lamb according to what everyone can eat. Your lamb shall be without defect, a male a year old. You shall take it from the sheep or from the goats. You shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it at evening. They shall take some of the blood and put it on the 2 doorposts and on the lintel, on the houses in which they shall eat it. They shall eat the meat in that night, roasted with fire, with unleavened bread. They shall eat it with bitter herbs. Don't eat it raw, nor boiled at all with water, but roasted with fire, with its head, its legs, and its inner parts. You shall let nothing of it remain until the morning, but that which remains of it until the morning you shall burn with fire. This is how you shall eat it, with your belt on your waist, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste. It is Yah's Passover. For I will go through the land of Egypt in that night, and will strike all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and animal. I will execute judgments against all the gods of Egypt. I am Yah. The blood shall be to you for a token on the houses where you are. When I see the blood, I will pass over you, and no plague will be on you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. This day shall be a memorial for you. You shall keep it as a feast to Yah. You shall keep it as a feast throughout your generations by an ordinance forever. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. Even the first day you shall put away yeast out of your houses. For whoever eats leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. In the first day there shall be to you a holy convocation, and in the 7th day a holy convocation. No kind of work shall be done in them except that which every man must eat, only that may be done by you. You shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for in this same day I have brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore you shall observe this day throughout your generations by an ordinance forever. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at evening. There shall be no yeast found in your houses for 7 days, for whoever eats that which is leavened, that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he is a foreigner or one who is born in the land. You shall eat nothing leavened. In all your habitations you shall eat unleavened bread. Then Moses called for all the elders of Israel and said to them, Draw out and take lambs according to your families, and kill the Passover. You shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the 2 doorposts with the blood that is in the basin. None of you shall go out of the door of his house until the morning, for Yah will pass through to strike the Egyptians. And when he sees the blood on the lintel and on the 2 doorposts, Yah will pass over the door, and will not allow the destroyer to come into your houses to strike you. You shall observe this thing for an ordinance to you and to your sons forever. It shall happen, when you have come to the land which Yah will give you, as he has promised, that you shall keep this service. It will happen, when your children ask you, What do you mean by this service? That you shall say, It is the sacrifice of Yah's Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt when he struck the Egyptians and spared our houses. The people bowed their heads and worshipped. The children of Israel went and did so as Yah had commanded Moses and Aaron, so they did. At midnight, Yah struck all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sat on his throne, to the firstborn of the captive who was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of livestock. Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. Death of firstborn. The 10th and final plague was by far the worst and had the most far-reaching consequences. It was the culmination of all the other plagues, and Pharaoh had even been warned in the beginning that if he did not submit to Yahweh, he would lose his firstborn son. That was Exodus 4:23. In the first 9 plagues, Yah had proven without a doubt that he alone is the creator of all things, he alone rules the harvest and the livestock, and he alone governs the rivers, earth, sky, and stars. He had stripped the priests and the magicians of the honor and power given to them by the people. He had made the people question Pharaoh's ability to govern the land of Egypt. This 10th plague was the final stroke, the death blow. Exodus 12:12 tells us this plague was Yah's execution of judgment on all the gods of Egypt. The death of all the firstborn showed the total inability of the gods of Egypt to protect them. Pharaoh himself was considered a god in Egypt, and this last plague seemed to be particularly directed at him. In the 9th plague, the sun god, who was believed to be Pharaoh's father, was soundly defeated. And then in this 10th one, Pharaoh's son, the heir to the throne, and therefore a god to be, was killed. This was a blow to Pharaoh's person, his fatherhood, his kingship, and his supposed divinity. Yah's people had cried out to him in Exodus 3 verses 7 through 9 for deliverance, and he heard them. Pharaoh's people cried out to him with a horrendous wailing in Exodus 12 verse 30, but he was powerless to help them. As with the hailstorm plague that caused immediate loss of human life, Yah again offered a way of escape to anyone who would listen and obey his instructions. He even made provision in Exodus chapter 12, verses 48 and 49, for non-Israelites who wanted to become part of Israel and take part in the provision for salvation from this plague. Yah showed once again what a merciful God he is. After the 9th plague of darkness, Yah indicated the beginning of a new era, including a new calendar for his people. He told Moses and Aaron that from then on, the Israelites were to begin their calendar with that month as the first month of the year. On the 10th day of the month, as we discussed a few days ago, they were to choose the lamb or kid they would sacrifice on the 14th day of the month. Yah gave them ample time to decide whether or not they would follow his instructions and mark themselves as his people. On the 14th day, they were to slaughter their lambs or kids at dusk, take some of the blood and smear it on the 2 sides and top of the door frames at the entrances to their homes, and then go into the house and eat the meat, roasted by fire, along with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. None of it was to remain until morning. Any leftovers were to be burned up completely. They were to eat it in a hurry, with their traveling clothes and shoes on and their staffs in their hands, ready to go as soon as Pharaoh gave Moses the go-ahead. While they were in their homes, Yah passed through the land of Egypt and killed all the firstborn, both men and animals, who were not in a home marked with the blood of a Passover lamb. Yah had shown from the 4th to the 9th plague that he was fully capable of knowing who and where his people were, and distinguishing them from the Egyptians without them needing to do anything to mark themselves as his. But it was time for them to make a choice. Yah had clearly demonstrated his superiority over the gods of Egypt, but it was up to the people to declare whether or not he had won their allegiance. What he asked of them was not without risk. The creator god whose festival Yah had interrupted with the hailstorm was usually depicted with a ram's head. The Egyptians believed this god was responsible for reproduction and the creation of children, and they viewed lambs and rams as this god's sacred representatives. For this reason, it was against the law to harm a lamb or kid and was punishable by death. When Yah asked them to choose and tend to a lamb or kid for 4 days, and then slaughter it publicly and consume it in their homes, he was asking for a dangerous, public renunciation of Egypt's ways and gods. Furthermore, he was asking them to embrace a new worldview, specifically with regards to the afterlife. The Egyptians believed that to enjoy a good afterlife, their names had to be remembered on earth. To have their names forgotten was the worst fate imaginable. One way they attempted to have their names be remembered was by chiseling them into stone. Pharaohs and rich Egyptians accomplished this on tombs, monuments, and pyramids, but for lower-class Egyptians and slaves, stone was not easily accessible. Their homes were mostly made of mud and straw, which do not withstand the test of time, but their doorposts and lintels were made of stone, so the custom developed to carve their names into the doorposts and lintels of their homes to try to ensure that their names lived on so they could have a better afterlife. When the Israelites first came to Egypt in the time of Joseph, they lived in tents, but over time they built their own more permanent structures, most likely in the same way the Egyptians built theirs. They had adopted many of the Egyptian ways of thinking, and they had much to unlearn. When Yah asked them to smear the blood of the Passover lamb on the sides and top of their door frames, he was asking them to cover their names with the blood of the lamb. This was an object lesson intended to begin to teach them about Yah's way of salvation. Their names on stone did not ensure life in the hereafter. Only the blood of a perfect, sacrificial lamb could do that. We, of course, need to learn the same lesson, and commemorating the Passover each year is a great way to remind ourselves of the important truth that it matters where our names are written. Revelation 20, verse 15, and 21, verse 27 both talk about a book of life that determines who lives on into eternity, and it is only by the blood of the Lamb, our Messiah Yeshua, that we can have our names written in that book. Ridding our hearts of all forms of idolatry and giving our full allegiance to Yah is not without risk, but the journey he invites us on with the words, "Let my people go," promises to be worth more than anything it costs us. Thank you for reading these days of Passover with me. I hope this has been a blessing to you, and I want to wish you a happy Passover, happy Feast of Unleavened Bread, and happy Feast of First Fruits. Shalom.